Welcome back to What's the 411 News, where we bring you news observation, interpretation, and news commentary from an FBA and BGR perspective. Let's get it. Welcome, everybody. Welcome back to What's the 411 News. And today we have the usual suspects are out here trying to get their own community popping, a white-only community, right? So, yeah, we're going to get into this one. Let's check it out right now. And let's take a look, man. Let's see what's really going on. All right. So, segregation 2.0. Oh, founder of Whites Only crew wants to plant roots in Missouri. So return to the land eyes Springfield. A new chapter in segregation, with the question mark, of course. A whites only group known as Return to the Land is making moves toward expanding its self-segregated mission into the Springfield, Missouri area. Originally planted in northern Arkansas, the group claims it wants to build communities centered around European ancestry. While they frame it as a lifestyle choice, civil rights watchdogs aren't buying it, and they're raising serious legal red flags. Okay. So launched in 2023, Return to the Land brands itself as a private member association for white people. You already can see where this is going, I bet, right? I bet you can already see where this is going. Okay. But they are branding themselves as a private member association, if you will, for white people, which, let's be real, sounds like segregation with a modern twist. The 160-acre Arkansas setup was selected for its affordability, natural resources. Y'all listen to this, man. Affordability, natural resources, right? And you guessed it, a predominantly white population. When you say predominantly, that still kind of sounds like there might still be some other ethnicities around, but just a real small sprinkle of that. The RTTL co-founder, Eric Orwell, told Ozarks first that a similar settlement is being scoped out near Springfield. The vision, a national network of whites-only enclaves offering homeschooling, legal help, health care, and even community recreation zones. Very interesting. According to Orwell, the RTTL is about preserving ancestry. Yeah, just listen to these words, man. Pay attention to these words. Okay? Pay attention to the wording to all this stuff. Okay? Pay attention to that. So they're about preserving ancestry and cultural identity. We want to ensure that white Americans can live among like-minded people, he said, doubling down on the idea that demographic change is a threat. Demographic change is a threat. Now, that makes me think of when Joe Biden said in the so-called leaked Zoom meeting that around 2030, which is probably going to be early, that's like 5 years away. It's probably like now, really, but saying like around 2030, the population in America is going to be less white. And he mentioned European. All right. So listening to that and thinking about that, just by reading this here, It also makes me think like he's trying to start these white-only communities so they can get their population back up as well, because the population is diminishing, right? The population is diminishing. And so maybe that's the goal. That's maybe the goal under the goal, if you will, right? So, yes, it said we want to ensure that white Americans can live among like-minded people, he said, doubling down on the idea that demographic change is a threat. Translation, a pushback against multiculturalism, wrapped in a clean-cut language. The mission still reeks of racial separation, just without the hoods and burning crosses. All right. So the Anti-Defamation League, or Anti-Defamation League, ADL, is not here for RTTL's expansion talk. In a public statement, they called the group's efforts a revival of segregation and warned that whites-only housing likely steps all over the Fair Housing Act and other civil rights protections. We urge officials to ensure Arkansas doesn't become a haven for exclusion, said Lindsey Bach Friedman, ADL South Central Regional Director. Legal pressure is brewing, and it's clear this isn't flying under the radar. Orwell counters the criticism with legalese, claiming that RTTL is airtight because it operates as a private association and doesn't publicly sell land. His argument, if folks can start groups around fitness, faith, or even prepping, why not ancestry? You see, there's a big thing about this ancestry thing and European ancestry. So, reading between the lines, digging, when I'm reading this stuff, pay attention to, I always tell you guys, pay attention to the wording about things, and it'll explain a lot deeper, reveal a lot of things a lot deeper. I'll put it that way. All right. Okay. So again, if folks can start groups around fitness, faith, or even prepping, why not ancestry? But that private club defense might not hold when it starts looking and acting like a parallel society that ducks inclusive housing laws. Okay. The end game, RTTL wants to pop up communities like this across all 50 states. Now imagine that. See, again, that seems like you're trying to, because your population is diminishing in the US and it's starting to become more Black Americans, more immigrants coming over now that Trump is trying to get rid of everybody. So, who knows if he's in on it? That's a whole nother story. If Trump's in on it in a side type of way, is he in on it like that? Or is he really doing something else altogether and it just happens to kind of cross paths? That's up for you to think about and decide. I'm just kind of putting that out there to think about. All right. So he's saying his end game is to have these type of communities in all 50 states. That's not just homesteading, that's infrastructure for institutionalized separation. While Orwell insists he's not forcing his views on others, it's clear that RTTL is actively resisting the idea of integration, and banking on nostalgia for a whiter America. It's the same old tune, just remastered for 2025. Here's where things get real. Springfield and the rest of Missouri now stands at a crossroads. Will local officials and law enforcement hit the brakes on RTTL's blueprint before it sets up shop, or will they sidestep it under the freedom of association banner? Either way, this isn't just about one group. It's about where we draw the line when heritage becomes a cover story for exclusion. Okay. So let's take a look at these key takeaways real quick. All right. Key takeaways. The RTTL is a whites-only community group expanding from Arkansas to Missouri. And before I go on, let me say this. The word is kind of already out with Missouri officials that they're probably not going for it, or at least publicly, they're putting on the facade or the front, like they're not with all this segregation stuff and they're not going for all this separation and all that. So just keep that in mind. That's the word is already out there that the people in the government in that particular area that they're talking about trying to go to, this RTTL, is that they're already saying that, yeah, you're gonna have a problem trying to roll up to Missouri like that. So they say. All right. So their goal is to create a national network of racially exclusive private settlements. Okay. The ADL says it's a modern segregationist movement and likely illegal. Now, likely, why would you put likely in just as opposed to just illegal? All right. Again, like I tell y'all, pay attention to these words. The RTTL defends itself by claiming private association status. The plan includes services like schooling, healthcare, and legal aid. The group's rhetoric frames diversity as a threat to white identity. Now, you read in between those lines. What does he mean by that? The group's rhetoric frames diversity as a threat to white identity. Let me touch on that. Well, let me read this last one real quick. Springfield could be ground zero for a bigger battle over civil rights and coded racism. Let's go. Let me go back to this one. The group's rhetoric frames diversity as a threat to white identity. All right. Frames it as a threat to white identity. Okay. So, in other words, diversity, diverse colors of people, diverse backgrounds of folks, different ethnicities. Is he talking about Asian, Latino, Black, or just all Black and just coding it with the word diversity, right? Because some time ago, I told y'all when people use diversity, all inclusive, minorities, they're referring to Black, but they're making you think that they're all for all these other groups, or they're making you think they're for Black, but they're really for other groups. So when you hear the Democrats use that word, diversity, inclusion, equity, minority, you'll feel as a Black person, you go, oh yeah, that means us. You're including us with us. Yeah, we part of that. But it really doesn't mean that when it comes to Democrats. Now, this guy's using the word diversity, or in this article is diversity being used. So are they saying Black in this sense when they use the diversity? The group's rhetoric frames diversity as a threat to white identity. Okay. Very, very, very interesting. So we're going to hit a video real quick and just get a little bit more deep into, what they about. All right. So let's check it out. Okay, as of course, when you go live, and probably this would happen if it's recorded. You're getting issues here. Let's see if we can get it playing again. If not, we're gonna pull it up again. That's all. All right, let's try this. We'll get this popping pretty soon here. So you guys just bear with us as we pull this thing up. Let's see what we can do there. All right, let's try this again. There we go.
In the Ozark Hills, in the state of Arkansas, dozens of people have been working hard, building houses and a new type of community. It's called Return to the Land, and it is a town open to white people only. They are millennials and Gen Z, and this is a new update of age-old prejudice.
Millennials and Gen Z. Okay. So they might have gotten a memo telling them, hey, our population out here is dwindling. Y'all need to start putting something together. They went back and got the younger generation to start putting things together, saying, hey, we need to make sure we maintain our global control, and we need y'all to figure out a way to go on and get together and start repopulating and bringing our population numbers back up. Okay. Millennials and Gen Zs are mainly doing this. All right. And we now know that millennials are now up in their late 20s, 30s, maybe mid 30s. So they're like what society suggesting ripe age group to repopulate, and they want to do it in America instead of just taking your behinds. If you want the European culture, go back to Europe. They'll be waiting on you. They'll be happy to have you. Take your behinds back to Europe if that's the case, right? You want to bring to America European culture and stuff like that. Don't waste your time. Just go on and take the trip back. Take the trip back where you came from, right? That's all you got to do. So let's listen in.
Open to white people only. They are millennials and Gen Z, and this is a new update of age-old prejudice.
What we've done here is establish a place where we have control over who our neighbors are, and that is just for the sake of preserving, our culture.
And
control who their neighbors are so they can preserve their culture. So we can get our numbers up back in America, so we can once again, because the control is starting to come out of our hands, our people's hands. Let's see if we can repopulate and gain back some of this control before we completely lose it. All right. Always some type of disguising in there with the words.
Of age-old prejudice.
What we've done here is establish a place where we have control over who our neighbors are, and that is just for the sake of preserving, our culture.
And that culture, effectively, we're saying this is a white culture, a whites-only place.
White American culture.
But what this sounds like is bringing back, this is a white culture.
So what is white American culture? Anybody can answer that. What is white American culture? He made it specific. White American culture. Not American culture, not Black American culture, not foundational Black American culture. White American culture. So what is the culture of white America? What has been the historical culture of white America? Enslavement, telling folks, hey, ends, get off my property. Ends, you don't belong around here. What is white American culture? Recreating and revamping the sundown towns. Is that white American culture? What's white American culture? Being able to get you to let's revamp the slave plantations again. Is that white American culture? Okay.
Culture, a whites-only place.
White American culture.
But what this sounds like is bringing back segregation. Is that a fair assessment?
It's free association. So we're not trying to keep other people down. This is a small settlement in the middle of the Ozarks.
But they are being kept out, even if...
you don't let everyone into your home.
Around 40 people live here. Hundreds more from across the world have paid to be members. And while the men do the physical labor, the women take care of the children who live here full time. It could be very lovely.
And let me say something about that as well. When it comes to the white women, the white women ain't really feeling these white men, to be honest with y'all. Y'all can play if you want to or pretend if you want to. They'll stay up in that area right there, the whites only area, and they'll sneak in some other ethnicities. Okay, well, let's go back to the white American culture. Another white American culture throughout, the history. There's been history of white women getting with the slave black men, whether it was a fetish or what have you, or other reasons. There's always seems to have been a thing. Because even to this day, you have interracial dating, interracial marriage. So, and they even look on this video, they look like they're a little bit, they don't look too happy on this video. Let's check this out real quick.
Community, if you're part of the community, but if you're black, or if you're Jewish, or if you're gay, you can't be part of that community.
They can have their own communities, and they already do.
You might be wondering out, even.
She said that like that's just a script to say. You can look in her face a little bit. Oh, they already have their own communities. But she said it was not like she was really fully convinced of that. And who knows? Who's to say this lady is not a spy? Who's to say this lady ain't in the FBI infiltrating, seeing what's going on? Who's to say this lady is not CIA just infiltrating to see what they up to, making sure they don't have no other plans? But she don't look like she's convinced.
Members. And while the men do the physical labor, the women take care of the children who live here full time. It could be a very loving community if you're part of the community, but if you're black, or if you're Jewish, or if you're gay, you can't be part of that community.
Black, Jewish, or gay, you can't be in that community. Like I said, who's to say this woman is not a spy infiltrating? She ain't FBI, CIA. She ain't Mossad or MI6. Just infiltrating, seeing what's going down in there. Okay, I'm just saying.
They can have their own communities, and they already do.
You might be wondering how.
And she looked like she'll sneak a black man in there. She'll sneak a black man up in there, or she'll leave out, do her thing, then come back. But they don't look happy. You know what I'm saying? Look at them. They don't look like they're happy to be part of that community.
They can have their own communities, and they already do.
You might be wondering how any of this can be legal. Return to the Land is structured as a private members association, which they believe allows them to discriminate on the basis of ethnicity, along with other factors. That has yet to be tested in the courts and may well fail. The Arkansas Attorney General has said his office is now reviewing the matter as a result of our reporting, and that there is no room for racial discrimination in Arkansas or anywhere in a free society.
Okay. So what's interesting, another thing that comes to mind is that there will be police officers that'll be down for this, that'll live and join them. There will be judges that'll join them or quietly, secretly join them or have property, even if they don't live there full time. They'll join them. There'll be lawyers, judges, police, fire, medic folks. Some of them will be down for doing that. They'll just try to be on the low with it because they have to deal with public people of different ethnicities. But on the low, there'll be some of them that'll be in there. But like I said, who's to say that lady and who other women or men who join there won't be, I'm just, who know? I might be sending the dog whistle. You know what I'm saying? Who's to say it might not be FBI to go decide they want to go in there and check, make sure not only are they trying to get the numbers up, they want to get control, right? They want to get control. Control of what? And how are they going to try to get control? Through weaponry, you know what I'm saying? CIA, FBI, are they trying to do that? I'm just saying, what's the ultimate goal? What's the ultimate plan? You know what I mean? So y'all might want to, pay a secret visit. You might want to step in and pretend like you want to buy some land. You know what I mean? FBI, CIA, you might want to do that. See what they're really up to. Are they planning a similar thing like they did to the Black Wall Street? Is that a long-term goal? Is that what the plan might be? I'm just saying. You know what I mean? Well, you guys just let me know what you think about this one. Keep your eyes open. Like I said, the word is out that in Missouri, the area that they're talking about expanding to, they're portraying like they're really not going to be, they're not really with all that. It's 2025. Their long years supposedly past all that nonsense, supposedly, and it just might be for the public front, but behind closed doors, and maybe a lot of Missouri officials is with it. It remains to be seen, or it remains to be revealed. So you guys let me know what you think about this one. I appreciate y'all as always for checking us out at What's the 411 News as we are live. And with that being said, we're going to get on out of here and we'll catch you on another one. This is What's the 411 News, and I'm out. Peace. Welcome back to What's the 411 News, where we bring you news observation, interpretation, and news commentary from an FBA and BGR perspective. Let's get it.